Are you an agent struggling to understand real estate economics? Would you benefit from learning how top agents structure their businesses? Then you've come to the right place. And welcome to the Nerdy Agent Podcast Business Tip of the Week.
Business tip.
You're in the right place if you want business tips.
Yes, you are.
This week, we are going to talk about hiring a transaction coordinator versus outsourcing it to a service. So essentially having your own in-house Dwight Erickson, the best transaction coordinator in the United States of America, or outsourcing it and paying a company each transaction to do it for you.
Are you saying there's someone outside of the United States better than Dwight Erickson?
I don't think that's possible, dude.
I didn't want to compare. They're different
Okay.
markets. It's
Fair
not
enough.
fair. It's
Fair
not
enough.
fair to compare
Fair
different markets. So tell me about this. What do you guys think about this?
Well, I mean, I hired my first part-time transaction coordinator in my second year, the end of my second year, full year of real estate. First off, if you're selling like 20 or more homes and you are coordinating your own transactions, you're definitely doing it wrong. I was easily able to double my business from year 2 to 3 just because I had someone working 12 hours a week on my paperwork. But that said, there are a few options, right? Because if you want to hire a full-time employee, you have to pay a full-time employee wage. Whereas if you want to hire a service, then you just have to pay that service per file. And typically it's like $200 to $500 per transaction. Let's just say it's $350 for numbers sake. At 30 transactions, it's like $10,000 to $11,000. Now, the biggest thing that I think people miss on, especially when they're growing a team, is they try to calculate the cost of a full-time employee versus the cost of the in-house coordinator like they're the same thing. Whereas, you know, when we had our first full-time employee 5-ish, whatever, years ago, she wasn't just doing transaction coordination. She was running our social media. She was planning our events. She was doing marketing. She was doing all sorts of other things as well, because I think a full-time TC, a really good one, well, the best one, like Dwight, can manage like 400 transactions in a year. And to pay $350 per file for 400 would be like $135,000. Is that math right? 140.
You'd be the one that would know.
140,000. So you're better off having an employee to do that role, obviously. But also, like you said, Dwight's also doing business development with people. He's helping to save deals. He's going above and beyond what a outsourced service would do.
Not to mention the processes and systems you can put in place when it's in-house.
Yeah, you can
decide
change it
all
yourself.
of that.
Yeah, but being good at business planning is really important in this, right? So we think very analytically. We're pretty thoughtful in how we build our businesses up and how we scale effectively. You have the right resources in place as you're scaling, but you don't want to overdo it. We're seeing some teams get in trouble right now because they've hired all these employees because they think that's what they need to grow this big team. Well, now the market's down 40% and they're going, oh shoot, all my expenses are problematic. So you don't really want to hire somebody and then lay them off. But thinking critically about how you can use resources is really important, not just for TC, but for your entire business. So can you hire somebody who can do this, but also, in AJ's point, add other value elsewhere? Or if you're not big enough yet, think about when you hit that point of, I'm going to be big enough for this to make sense, or the team's going to be big enough now for it to make sense to have a full-time employee.
And if you're a solo agent selling 15, 20 houses a year, maybe 25, and you don't want to have the overhead of a full-time employee, outsourcing transaction coordination isn't the worst thing ever.
I was just going to say, like, we have friends that are in that bucket that have sold, they sell,
20, 30 a year, and they still do this.
two a month. They do 24 sales at, 12 to 15 million in volume. They're making good money. They don't want to have anybody on staff. They're not strapped for time. They're fine just outsourcing the paperwork, getting the title and everything closed, and they have a good relationship with somebody. Like you said, it's a great option then.
Yeah, but maybe you could, there's other you could find 3 friends that are all in the same boat as you, selling 20 to 25 houses a year, and maybe get together and hire somebody. There's ways to think critically about it. Understand, though, that expenses when you hire employees are fixed. When you hire an employee to do per file, it's variable. So your ability to get out of that expense is easier if you have shortfalls. But to AJ's point, if you scale big enough, you get extra value from having that a fixed expense, because you can pay that person less than essentially what you'd be paying the one-off per transaction person.
Well, and you can define the role differently, So again, not to go back on Dwight all the time, but like Dwight really he's been doing real estate a long time. He's really good at understanding how to save a deal. He's really good at knowing foreclosures. He's really good at understanding business and bringing things to the team, and then
he can answer one-off questions.
Yeah, he can do so many different things, whereas like, in-house coordinator Joey like might just not be willing to do that and isn't really expected to be the person to do that. So it's just receive the paperwork and process the file.
Yep, 100%.
And that's all we have for you this week on the business tip of the week.
Business tip.
Hope you love that business tip of the week.